Hey y'all, this is Dr. Joy from the Therapy for Black Girls podcast. And this is a booster session. As a reminder, the information included is meant to be educational and entertaining, but is not a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Joy, and I had to drop in because I have some strong feelings about what we saw yesterday at the US Open. I missed it in real time because I was asleep, but I awoke from my nap to see my Twitter timeline in a complete uproar about Serena losing the match. So apparently the umpire said she was cheating and took a point away from her, which resulted in her losing the match. And Serena, of course, is rightfully upset because this is high stakes and she's not a cheater, and she tells him so. Apparently, men in the sport have done much worse and have not been penalized for it. But of course, Serena is. So not only is this an awful loss for Serena, it's also a less than ideal way for our young sister Naomi Osaka to win her first title. What we saw yesterday was the personification of our parents always telling us, you have to be twice as good to get half the respect. Something that is not even an issue when other people do it is magnified when it happens with Black women. And let's be clear, this wasn't just about this one call. Though for a competitor like Serena, of course it was a big deal. This was about the repeated drug tests, about her not being taken seriously in the hospital, about her being told she can't wear her jumpsuit, about the constant attacks on her body and her performance. And it was just enough. She had had enough. She's exhausted in much the same ways that so many of us are exhausted by things we have no control over. People wanting to touch our hair. People making comments about how well we speak. Questioning who we are to be in the positions we're in. Being micromanaged in the workplace. Fearing for our lives anytime police are in the area. Wondering if someone on our bus is going to do or say something to hurt or offend us. This constant state of having to be on guard and protect ourselves is overwhelming, and it's just plain exhausting. Just a quick glance through the timeline, and you can see how many women could identify with exactly what Serena was feeling. And it made me wonder, what was your first US Open moment? Do you remember the first time it was obvious to you that even though you deserve something, you might not get it? Or that you were being treated differently just because you were a Black woman? Mine was my senior year of high school. It was the last couple of weeks of school, and I was set to be the valedictorian of our class. My English teacher asked me to stay after class one day, and he tells me that one of my white classmates is very close to having a matching GPA, and all she needs is an A in his class, and we would be co-valedictorians. So if she makes an A on the final, he would give her an A in the class, even though she had not rightfully earned an A. Y'all, I was livid. I had worked my tail off for years to have good grades. And in that moment, it all felt like it had been for nothing. But in that moment, I also realized that this is how the world was set up. Now, she didn't make the A in the class, so we weren't co-valedictorians. But it still felt like something that should not have even been on the table. And I have to be honest with y'all. I struggled about whether I would even record this booster for you today, because typically I like to leave you with some tips or some sort of resolution. But I realized that it's also important for me to make space for us to just be upset and disgusted. So, what was your first US Open moment? Or what's your recent moment if you can't remember the first? Share it with us using the hashtag TBGInSession, and let's keep this conversation going. I'll be back on Wednesday with your full episode, but until then, take good care of yourself.